we'll have to start the discussion and probably come back at a time relatively close to that time. I'm going to just run down to points of order and just make the point that when somebody, in the case of a continued irrelevant, any member, the chairman may call him and notice at him to order, but him in this case mean her. But the member may be permitted to state the case by an appeal to the conference through the chair. Any other member may also cause him to cease speaking by standing and saying, after addressing the chair, I rise and a point of order. And you have to state the point of order, or else you'll be ruled out of order. If a member, when out of order, refuses to sit or cease speaking when called to order by the chair, he shall be named by the chair. And once you're named by the chair, probably in Parliament they ask what Gino says, sorry. Usher him out. Okay. But essentially, colleagues, what is before us is for the good order, meaningful engagement, and hopefully productive output of our conference. I commend you to read the rest, and I ask us all to ensure that we have a good conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Setjen, for always so safely guiding the ship. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, our program calls for questions and notices of motion. Are there any questions or notices of motion? And colleagues, it's important for us to recognize that microphones are placed across this auditorium. And so if it is that you're going to be speaking, then please find your position behind one of these microphones. Questions and notices of motion. If there be no questions or notice of motion, I'll invite at this time Miss Rihanna Hilton as she comes with an item. And Miss Rihanna Hilton is from the Dundee Old Age and Infant School. Is she here? She's on her way. Put your hands together and just make her feel welcome.
Ambition by Rihanna Hilton. Lord have mercy, Miss Mary Jane, what happened to in Nice Island, Jamaica? Everywhere you turn up here, crime and violence. People nowadays no longer want education. And a shop turn gambling port. And the little young boy, them not have rub out the little luck from out of them hand, Miguel. Every little young boy not stop sing. Run it, selector.
Big money popping anywhere we go.
Big money popping anywhere we go. Big money popping anywhere we go. Follow them there. The scammer them there. Me I tell you so the scammer them there. Oh God, we need to go back to the days when church and school played the most important roles in a society. We need to bring back moral values and respect for each other. Me tired to see the young people them a waste them talent. Nowadays, wagwan dog, me good dog, all of a sudden, everybody turn dog. Right, you know? We want everybody to listen to the one, yeah. Ambition, if you have ambition. Ambition, if you have ambition. Don't fan fool if you have ambition. Stay in school if you have ambition. Working money if you have ambition. Me a talk to boy, girl, woman and man. Ambition if you have ambition. Ambition if you have ambition. Don't filter me, not me, know me, I say. Work real hard and you'll get paid. Stay focused and always pray. Give thanks when you see another day. God are the boss, Him are the way. Him a guide you every day. Believe in yourself. Okay, so listen to what me I say. Sing now. Ambition, if you have ambition. Ambition, if you have ambition. Don't find fool if you have ambition. Stay in school if you have ambition. Work your money if you have ambition. Me a talk to boy, girl, woman and man. Jesus. Miss Mary Jane, you no smell that? Me chicken back abandon.
Miss Rihanna Hilton, thank you so very much for entertaining us, and we will release you to go check the chicken back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are approaching a very serious moment on our program. We're about to listen to the keynote address. But just before we have Mrs. Elaine Foster Allen address us, I'll invite Mrs. Stephanie Wright Grant at this time to do the introduction of the keynote speaker, and then the voice you will hear after that is that of our keynote speaker.
Madam President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen on the platform, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, good morning. Good morning. Our keynote speaker was appointed as the first Chief Inspector of Education in Jamaica and was also Permanent Secretary in the Ministries of Education, Health, and the Office of the Prime Minister. Prior to serving in the civil service, she worked for 10 years as principal of Shortwood Teachers College. This outstanding educator has international experience as she has worked as a classroom teacher, head of department, senior teacher, deputy head teacher, and inspector attached to Her Majesty's Inspectorate in the United Kingdom. Here in Jamaica, she has also served as education officer and education consultant on school improvement, planning, environmental education. She holds a Master of Philosophy in Theology and a Bachelor of Education from the Universities of Birmingham and Nottingham in England, respectively. She has served on various national and international bodies. The Broadcasting Commission is one of them, where she was the commissioner. Management Institute for National Development, University Council of Jamaica, and presently she's the chair of the National Commission on Education and Training Reimagined. Service to her church is also important to her. She's a member of the church and pastor's council of her local church, Sterling Castle New Testament Church of God, where she's responsible for prayer and intercession team. She enjoys reading, gardening, interior decorating, politics, and thinking. She is a published writer on education, gender, and religion. She's married to Trevor and has a daughter and a niece as her immediate family. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome outstanding educational leader, Mrs. Elaine Foster Allen, former Permanent Secretary, Principal. Thank you.
Praise the Lord, church. I know we have a set of protocols, but I must start by saying praise the Lord, church. Waking up a little bit, not true? To our President, Mrs. Georgia War Richards, President-elect, Dr. Garth Anderson, Mr. Howard Isaacs, immediate past president, Mr. Byron Farquharson, Secretary General, Mr. Lindsley Doha, how you say it? Dudai. That's right. The last time I was here, I was in wearing another hat. And I got up to introduce the team from the Ministry of Education. And I said, I want to introduce, and I called the name them, and I said, Claudette Clark. So it is Mr. Dudha. May I try? Parish presidents, members of staff, delegates, observers, representatives of the media, other colleagues and friends of the JTA. We're still in the morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for your kind invitation to share with you in this opening session of your 54th conference under the theme, Promoting the Teaching Profession, a Beacon of Hope and Inspiration for the Nation. However, before I begin the speech, let me congratulate your outgoing president, Mrs. War Richards, on her exceptional leadership during the year of her tenure. I noted that during the year, she focused on women in the teaching profession, especially encouraging leadership among women. She was also very concerned about how, going to deal with the NSC, not true, National Standard Curriculum. And how you're going to improve learning outcomes in the 21st century. She led the organization at the personal level with godly fear, integrity. She focused on the organization as opposed to herself. And even when there were threats on her life, she gritted her teeth and continued to do that which you elected her to do. To sit at the table, to represent you, and to bargain. Talking about sitting at the table. I never tell anybody, I never even tell Mr. Parkinson, nor my good friend Howard, that there were times when they used to come up to the ministry to sit at the table. Well, brothers and sisters, one day I put on a piece of prayer and I say, God, no make them come. The other time he said, Jesus, shut the lion's mouth. Because they were doing a good job of representing you, the teachers. Yes, man. And especially when we know some of the things that we said we was going to do were never done. A piece of free take me. I am a trade unionist at heart. I belong to the NUT in the UK, and for a very brief period to JTA. So I understand the dynamics, of working with the unions and associations, and we understand the other side too. And by extension, not only did your outgoing president deal with us with tenacity and wisdom and fortitude, all the presidents that I've worked with have done that. And those that we hear about. Being in leadership is never an easy thing. But those who know how to follow and stay with the team do best at it. I note that Madam President ran with the common folk. She led from the front when she needed to, but she also knew when to take a back seat or just to merge into the crowd. Mr. President-elect, I can call him Gart, Dr. Gart. I can call all of them by their first names, but because I'm at conference, I'm using the protocol, Dr. Gart. I want to congratulate you on your ascendancy to the presidency of the JTA. And trust that you will walk in the best of the leadership tradition of the organization. Now, before I really get into the meat of the message, I'm declaring a few things. 2020 vision is perfect sight. Hindsight is for older people. I am at that place where I'm just shy of 65. So I can claim that wisdom is at work in me. If wisdom and hindsight and 2020 vision, Dr. Polly, do not work for me this morning and today, I do not know what will. Amen. So please, nobody in this conference should ever say, then if she didn't know that already, make she nice. When she in a PS and principal, make she ain't talk about them things. Wisdom, wisdom, wisdom. But if you check the records, you will see in my writings that much of what I'm going to say this morning didn't come about this morning or last night. Came about a long time ago. What an excellent topic for me to engage you on this morning. My intention in this presentation is to work with you as individual teachers, the association, hopefully the wider public, in a discourse that might touch some chords, yes, raise some questions and challenge us to rethink who we are as teachers, and hopefully help us to begin the repositioning in the context of our nation and the ongoing act of nation building. Could you pass the water, please? Thank you. The topic would suggest a few things. A, that our country continues to be in need of hope. And B, the teaching profession needs to be promoted as having the potential to bring that hope and inspiration. So I start by looking at the seeds of hope. The data regarding the performance of our children should tell you that there are seeds of hope in the system. We see that although there are challenges, there are also lights, beacons of light around us. So, if you take, for example, the results in mastery level gain for 2014 to 2017, what do we see? We see, and I put here some, from 2014 to 2017, there has been a healthy fluctuation over the period. But there have been good increases, significant increases, between 2016, 2017, increase of 7.1 percentage points over the previous year's average. When you look at literacy, between 2014 and 2017, we have moved from, that's grade 4, 77.4% of our children gaining, being accounted as literate, right? That was 2014. 2015, 86.4. Took a little dip. But in 2016, 79.1%. 2017, 84.6. When we look at the GSAT results now, we see an upward movement. 2015, math, 56%. I'm going to go straight to 2017. 2017, 62.4%. Science, 69%. But we had a little drop in 2017 to 64.7%. But the trajectory is upwards and stable. Social studies, 2015, 69%. 2017, 70.6%. Language arts, 64%. 2017, 72.8%. Communication task, 2015, 74%. 2017, 76.2%. You following me? CSEC results are also trending upwards. Where are my data? Right, so here now. Biology, 2015, 69% got 1 to 3 grades 1 to 3. Then it moved to 2017, 69.7. 2018, 74.2. Chemistry, going up steadily, fluctuating. 57.1, 2016, and a jump to 2018, 58.3. You go down to English A, 71.2, 2016, moved to 75.4 in 2018. English B, fluctuating, but on the up. 68.5, 2016, 55.8, 2017, 81.6, 2018. And then I said, that's good. Math is on the up. From 2016, 47.7%, 50.2% in 2017, 57.8% in 2018. Now, the NEI Inspection Cycle 2 reports, and the Chief Inspector's report, that there were 103 schools that were inspected. And in this round, she says, 38 schools, 31 primary level and 7 secondary level schools have improved to satisfactory and above ratings in leadership and management. Teaching in support of learning. Overall, 34 schools improved to ratings of satisfactory and above. 26 at the primary level and 8 at the secondary level. In these schools, teachers organized lessons creatively and effectively to enhance students' engagement. Anyone who has taught in the system for more than 25 years and more, rather, have been part and parcel of the changes. Incremental, yes, in some cases, imperceptible or significant, and in some cases sustained, as we saw in the figures above. In addition, some of you have worked with Rose and the NPC. You have worked with 11 Plus to GSAT, and now you're going to do PEP. And you have courageously stood to calls for the school improvement plans to be done. And you've had the NEI, the JTC, the NPC, and the NCL. You could almost sing one song about them. The improvements listed above did not drop out of the skies. They've all been dependent on the responses and efforts of teachers across the length and breadth of our country, in urban and rural settings, in conditions that are sometimes inimical to teaching and learning. Teachers, you've been ingenious, clever, inventive, resourceful, creative, and the history of our education and the allied fields will testify to your considerable and incomparable contributions. Look here, Sometimes when I travel and I go and see where all people have it easy, you go to Cayman children in a court, in a classroom, because they have AC. You go to England and they have books and resources still, they talk food, carpet and everything. Yes, you have grumbled, and the association has challenged the policymakers on several policy directives and direction, not least the JTC bill. I remember the men in black who marched on Heroes Circle, Doran and Clayton and Mark and all them people there, and come out, come put you on the manners. In some places, your performance still lacks luster. And at times, you may not have clearly understood what is expected of you in regard to curriculum implementation. But I have not witnessed any large scale, you know, some is a radical at heart. And when I say no, we're going to take it to heart. But take it to heart. I have not witnessed any wide-scale protest or withdrawal of service in regard to the changes above, like the rose and this and the pep and there's something there. Even when you've had to work under adverse and difficult circumstances. I remember going to a classroom in Kingston. And it was one of these rooms with 4 or 5 classes in the big hall. And brothers and sisters, the teacher teach. When she done, we call her outside and we said, "Ma'am, you're going to teach out your gut hole." The children, they're not going to learn anything. Not because you did not try. Not because she didn't have her lesson plan, not because she didn't know what she was doing, but the conditions were not conducive to learning. You still have parents who have not understood, nor have they taken seriously their role as first teachers of their children in regard to values and attitudes and self-discipline. So many classrooms remain places of challenge and confrontation, and the value of learning is secondary to the value of indiscipline displayed by some children, and an of fault, not all the time. So what are some of the challenges facing our country that we might be asked to bring some hope to? Economic growth at 1.7%. While we're recording some movement, is still anemic. We struggle with high public debt. I know death are debt, but it could be death. The crime rate is still too high. As an island, we're very vulnerable to natural disasters, and we have that in the back of our minds all the time. Flood and hurricane and storm and earthquake. Wealth is unevenly distributed. We see extreme poverty and extreme wealth. Poverty, the poverty rate has been decreasing over time. In 2007, it was 9.9% of the population. 2012, it decreased and then it's on the up. 19.9% of the population is said to be in poverty. It dropped in 2016 to 18.7%. The promotion of gambling and trickery as a normal way of life is evident. Lotto, pick 3, pick 4, pick 5, pick 2, super draw, top draw, lotto, 5 and all there's something there. So what does that say? It is encouraging a culture of chance and gambling and greed. The perception that corruption, nepotism, and cronyism is rife is a reality. It's in a school, and it's in a ministry, And it's in a government. And it's not now me saying it. And that's why I believe that we should have clear policies and procedures for things like appointment. I was talking to one of my past students this morning, and she's in the classroom from Wapikil Philo. Well, almost. And she's saying, well, you know, it's the way things go. Me say, and that is not the way things must go. If you have ability and you have the credentials, we should have the openings transparently displayed so anybody can apply. Chama. Anyway, so education system matters now. We still have a problem with our boys. 20% of our boys at the upper, we can't find, let me restate that. We cannot find approximately 20% of our boys when we look at the upper secondary school population. We have about between 38 and 40,000 children in each cohort. Approximately half of them are boys. None of pick me that. Okay. In the teaching profession now, there are some negative residual and current opinions and feelings voiced about teachers. Them not care. Them not teach them nothing. I buy and sell, them I buy and sell. And them I live for extra money, extra lesson money. These are messages that have been said, we have sent about ourselves. And we need to correct them. My students used to report to me, and up to last week I was in conversation, that was when I was a principal. The following was said, teachers say to new teachers, and where you kill up yourself at? I show you come if you can't show you. That can't be right. When people come into the classroom with energy and verve and vigor, you must welcome them and say, let me catch the bloody verve and vigor. Not true. Mighty, mighty. Now, what we believe, and I know Carol Gentles, Dr. Carol Hordat Gentles, in a speech 2 years ago, spoke about what teachers believed about themselves. She said their decisions about instruction are driven primarily by their knowledge of and concern for individual students' needs and the desire to help them overcome things like poverty and poor nutrition and those sorts of things. They talk about teaching and learning lacked accounts of engaging in meaningful professional dialogue or inquiry. Their teaching and learning intentions were focused predominantly on developing dispositional qualities. That's all good, you know, but may have a little something for you. Question then, what messages can the teaching profession take from the list of issues generated about economic growth, crime and violence, values, performance at various levels, and perception of the teaching profession? How might teachers respond? How can you be seen as inspiring hope in the country and in the children you teach? What are the issues that you might want teachers, you yourself, to take control of or have a greater say in them? I start with beliefs. What we believe about ourselves forms the basis of the hope and inspiration that we bring to the table. I don't know if it's because of church or because of my mother, but me always walk upright. Even if my head bow, my heart upright. Teachers, you have to start to walk upright. Like you and I have the answer to some of the issues. My own beliefs have changed and developed over time through training, experience, new information, and discourse. As I reflected on this speech, I thought I would share some of the beliefs I've had about me as a teacher. I believed that I had a moral purpose to teach. It comes from down at your gut hole. Am I being, is the there? It comes from your belly bottom. That's how better, not true. It comes from your heart. The little boy, I was in a class one time, I'm telling the children to find their heart. They were lying on the floor, boys' school. And when I looked to the corner, I said, little boy, have your hand here, sir. I said, that is not your heart. Here, sir. Little boy, have your hand here, sir. I said, no, that is not your heart. Here, find your heart, man. Find your heart. Yeah, man. I believe that what we believe can change the trajectory of every child that comes in front of us. Their life experiences can be changed. Look here, man. I believe that I've taught and were I to continue teaching. My philosophy, I have a philosophy about teaching. And it comes out of, and nobody stone me now, a Christian socialism framework. And then I said, that's all right. I believed, and I still do, that teachers should empower and liberate the learner and not domesticate him or her. Teaching should create suspicion in the learner, who should be led to ask, what is the teacher not telling me? Who said that? Teaching should disrupt the narrative of the status quo. Teaching that helps to challenge the power relations, whether it's about gender, social class, political ideology, or age. Some people say I must respect me because me old. Why? What have I done apart from aging gracefully, I hope? What have I done? Why should you respect me? I also hold that this sort of teaching comes from the heart of a scholar who learns and unlearns, who constructs and deconstructs knowledge. This sort of teaching is grounded in risk-taking and from thinking outside of the box. And when they think they have contained you in the box, you develop your own box and then you think outside of it. I've always held the view that teachers should have a clear and consistent philosophy of teaching and learning. It should set out why we do what we do. I go further to say that the entire education system needs, as a matter of urgency, such a philosophy. We've had vision and mission and motto. These tell us where we are going, that's a vision. What we're going to do to get there, that's the mission. But why? Why are we going in that direction? Is the philosophy. This is what is going to guide the why. You hear about the man who was looking up in the sky like this, and everybody come and start to look up. So somebody said, oh, where do I look on? The man said, I have a quick neck. Why is he looking up? There's a problem. But at least he knew why he was looking up. Nobody else around him knew why. And that's why we need a philosophical statement. So I agree with Robert Gregory, who in September 2015 said, Jamaica needs a national dialogue towards a shared understanding of the required philosophy and purpose of education in Jamaica today, taking into account what is happening in the world in the 21st century, and so on and so forth. To be quite honest, whichever administration has been in power, the administrations of the Jamaica Labour Party and the People's National Party in the 60s and in the 70s going into the 80s actually had statements of intent and why they were doing what they were doing. under the New Deal and under the Plan for Education. And bold Michael, take him out, say, this government's philosophy envisages the creation of an egalitarian society based on the twin pillars of social justice and equality of opportunity. At least he said. He said. Not true. We need somebody to at least say it in this country at this time. So what am I proposing? You as teachers must have your philosophy. Work with your little group, collaborate, have discourse. Why are we doing this? We can't just say, ask, why are we doing this? What is driving me to do this? The whole school, principals know. Once you start to ask, is a revolution, me I start, once you start to ask why, and you start to ask why of the principal and the leadership, and you start to ask why of the education system, people start to feel uncomfortable. I propose a bottom-up approach. So it's just philosophy. What you think? What you teach? Why you teach? Secondly, what we believe about ourselves and about our teaching and student learning matters. The teacher must have the heart and spirit, listen carefully, of the social worker, the truancy officer, and the welfare officer, and must care about her students. But the crux of her matter is about being a teacher, and a great teacher. She must be given to developing the quality of her teaching from just satisfactory to great. Great teaching inspires teachers first. You know, when you teach a good lesson, you know, say you plan it, man. And the children say, it's a great teaching, man. That's a great teaching. That builds your self-confidence and in turn inspires other people, your colleague and the students in your classroom. So she must know how to teach. Pedagogy, know your content, man. Everybody tell you that already, not true? Having subject area content knowledge is important, but knowing how it is constructed, having an idea of where it operates in a linear fashion, where your content knowledge is layered, cyclical, complex, relational, that's the depth of what you need. Understanding that knowledge must be seen as provisional and vulnerable. Because what happened? Nowadays, knowledge has changed quick and fast. And you have to know what to look for. What are the principles that you can hold on to? And knowledge is being reconstructed as we speak by some of the children that you teach. You must understand the difference between knowing and learning. All right. I came across a word the other day because I was asking not the other day, a few years ago. I was asking about some children young women who were mothers and they were attending school. So I said, how you teach them the children? Because when you teach them, they know already. Or they know I know. They need to know something else. And Dr. Clover Hamilton Flowers said, P.S. there's a word for that. She said, it's called heutagogy. You said what? She said heutagogy. She said, it's interest-based learning. And whether we like it or not, many children and young people are learning what they are interested in, and they've always done it. I have done it in the past, and you have done it. Who you're interested in, you know what? Yes, you want to teach frock making, but you're interested in designing flowers, floral arrangement. So you go out and you do that. Not true? That's right. So it's the same thing with children. Bless the Lord. Teachers need to find ways of using a good mix of authentic and traditional assessment strategies. I read something from Common Characteristics of Inspiring Teachers. Page 17 said, inspiring teaching fires the imagination through a combination of intellectual challenge, high expectation, and mutual trust between teacher and learner that invites the learner to join the teacher on a journey of discovery. When you go in a classroom, you can't just turn up, stiff so. It must walk. It must run sometimes. It must skip. Teachers must model inquisitiveness and ask deep and probing questions and inject enthusiasm and joy in the work that they do. Now then, while you're doing this, it is very important to develop this scholarship. Not true? You must know why you are doing it. It means that teacher education must change, Byron. It must change. Me tell the teacher, me tell the principal them already. I asked them, some of them the other day, what is your philosophy? Where are you going with teacher training? Me did try a few things. I tried mastery learning, for example. Yes? I tried research-based learning because I saw at that Shortwood. Anybody here from Shortwood and can verify the claim? No. You did not go to Shortwood, so you cannot verify the claim. But I tried while I was there to encourage mastery teaching and mastery learning. Right? So you teach the students to master, so you not give them right or wrong at this one go. You say, go and try it again until you get it right. How did I try that? Yes. Thank you very much. The leadership of schools must reposition their schools as true learning centers. Excellent leaders engage their teachers in creating learning as the culture of the school. And excellent school leaders discourage teachers from being monochrome and plain and encourages them to be textured and interested in a variety of topics and issues. And you stop the chatbot and move to discourse. At the level of the education system, and I need to say this because I truly believe in this and I have not been able to do it here in Jamaica. The provision of curriculum frameworks and syllabi should be devised, giving groups of locally based teachers the challenge and resources to plan the curriculum, work plans, and lesson plans to suit their individual cluster of schools or schools. I say this because I saw the debacle of Rose. Some teachers did not understand what them are saying, right? And I have been doing the rounds with PEP and talking to people about PEP. And some teachers, no, I say, that. Still I say, that. They don't understand. And that is because they weren't at the table. And you are mentally enslaved to a system that says this is how it must go all the time. I've often said, if it does not have to go like learning, pedagogies, and respect, you work with them. This is like when you said the boy have a cute little face. But the teacher was teaching. Huge misconception. Or when my niece come home and say, Auntie, when ladies are having babies, they carry them in their vagina. I said, what did you say? She said, in their vagina. I said, no, they don't carry them in their vagina. Misconception. Biological misconception. But you won't know that there are misconceptions until you talk to the children. You must have expert knowledge of what children find difficult and what they know and how to take them to the next level. by deepening their understanding. 2 final words. There is a call for values, attitudes, and morals. The call for schools to teach values and attitudes and civics has been ongoing for several years. While there is virtue in this call, we need to recognize that in some instances, the following questions need to be answered, and I quote, if teachers are being set up as a panacea for problems that have been hitherto intractable, what are the implications when students fail to learn? Teachers cannot be left as the sole purveyors of values and attitudes. Values are taught and they are caught from parents, church leaders, government, private sector leaders, anybody and everybody. However, all teachers must operate from a clearly defined set of values. This should be seen in how the profession individually in the profession and collectively how we carry ourselves. There must be greater awareness of how principles and values speak to issues of integrity, equity, social justice. How you select the resources that you're going to use in your classroom. How you mark the papers. Give everybody A and then deserve it. Or fail them, because you never mark the paper. But I also want to point out that as a matter of principle, you as teachers, if you're going to bring hope to all the children that you teach, must look carefully at the values embedded in the curriculum and in the assessment items. I had the good fortune to look at some of the items a few weeks ago. And I had to call this lady, CEO, and I said, you know, please to take a look at this. I found that there were instances of clear social and cultural experiences and values implied from which many of our children would be excluded. So there was one item that said, you're going to, no, not that one. The one about the going to the hotel. How many children are going to a hotel? A resort. You know the one, a resort. There was another one about the supermarket and the big fridge, the big freezer there. Some of our children, Baron, only go to the corner shop. They never see no big freezer. They've never seen a deep freeze. So once you put that item in the picnic, they must sit down there and consider what the deep freeze look like now. Me say, look here. Ask them to measure how much mesh they will need for the shop front. All right, enough said. If you're going to bring hope to this nation, you have to take some professional, technical skills, attitudes, and behaviors to the forefront of your teaching. Lastly, teacher activism. We got over 1 minute. Teacher activism. The profession has a rich history of teachers who stood up for justice, equality, and the rights of individuals outside of the profession. Mary Morris Lim, Amy Bailey, Edith Dalton, Faye Saunders, them people there. Those, and I call women. Okay. They're not so biased. They were fearless. And they worked without fear or favor. but they were principled. Where is your fervor? Where are the bold among us? Who will stand up for the oppressed and the alienated and the underdogs? Who will add justice, create liberatory teaching spaces, work against oppression, but care deeply about teaching? So I join with that gentleman here. Anyone here? That's right. Thank you, sir. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery that keeps you bound to traditions that have not always worked on your behalf and on behalf of the children and the nation. Disrupt the narrative. Bring hope, bring life, bring change. Amen.
What a word. Put your hands together and do that one more time. Colleagues, sometimes it takes these opportunities, these presentations, to call us to retrospection and introspection. Who am I? Why am I here? What am I doing? Why am I doing it? The call has been made. We have been propelled into social activism. How many of us will come and knock that table when we hear it? But when we are being called to act, we take the media and we say, not me, me have me Jesus picnic them. I will say, not me, in a necessary. Colleagues, we are being called to action. Things cannot remain the same. We need the bottom-up approach. And so when your next president comes, don't do like you have done. To say she can stand there, or him can stand there. Me I go to school. And then you write to the media. And you call Cliff Hughes and say, me cry cree. Me never part of it. And then you expect president alone to bear the brunt. Colleagues, this is a call. We need to wake up as a Jamaica Teachers Association. Faith Saunders this morning would have been in her elements listening to a speech like this. I can hear the voice of Judah Gill from the back saying, yes. I can see Dorothy Raymond closing her eyes and saying, this is the JTA. Who are you? Why are we here? For what purpose was this association formed? Colleagues, I take my leave from the chair, but I stand behind our new president because things cannot be the same. The teachers of Jamaica must begin to speak, must begin to support leadership. It can't be that as an association we're taking a stance and you have parish presidents, I go to school, go gather picnic on that tree, all when school gate lock. It can only get better if we demand better. The former PS says she quick when JTA come. Some people need to start wet them boots when JTA stand up. And we're not fighting, we're not promoting war, but we are standing up and declaring our purpose and taking our rightful position in society. The 2030 vision is dependent on what the teachers of Jamaica will do. This generation, they are depending on teachers to begin to walk the walk and talk the talk. United we stand, divided we fall. Back out at JTA if you're not a warrior, and allow some real JTA people to lead the charge. Leave JTA alone and stop criticizing and carry news to the wrong quarters, because we must do that which we were found to do. I'm not in church. I'm at conference. But Mrs. Foster Allen, you have stimulated my thought process. You have propelled me into a new space. A space where I feel not bombing a church, no, but bombing somewhere else. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together again for the keynote speaker. This time, I'm going to be inviting Mr. Simmons to make a presentation to Mrs. Foster Allen. And then after, Mrs. Onyx Boyne will come with a vote of thanks.
Mrs. Foster Allen, there is hope in education, and our passion will help us to see it materialize. Have a philosophy, it will guide you. Don't be afraid of changes. Stay informed to help our students. It is with this in mind that we from JTA express our sincere thanks to you for having shared with us. We have been inspired, and we pray God will bless us, keep on inspiring others. Thank you much for this.
Just before Mrs. Bowen comes, colleagues, I don't know whether you might have one or two the most questions for our keynote speaker. Any questions for our keynote speaker? Yes, Mr. Howard.
Real Council, you made a very good dissertation on a very prominent topic. My experience in the classroom over the many years are those who are successful and those who break some rules. And at times are intimidated without fear or favor. However, we see a trend taking place in education now, where in 1993 we moved to decentralization, setting up regional offices. Now, to my mind, the regional officers become RBOs, regional box offices. Nothing happens from the regions, from leave, appointment, even changing signatures to accounts, have to go to center. So it creates an inertia. How can we develop a modern education system when all these barriers are in place in the 21st century?
Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. Not for the world can free our mind. Atomic energy. Hello? Okay. So, my good friend, you need to read the signs of the times. And that's why I would recommend that you start with your group of principals who have some concern, and you bring those concerns to the fore. I've always said, if it is working, support it. I remember when I was an education officer, I went down to Charlie Smith. At that time, Paulette Chavans was the principal there. I couldn't find Paulette because she was in a classroom. She wasn't in her office, she was in a classroom. And they took the stance that once teachers were teaching, nobody interrupted them. So because me an education officer, if I want to see her, I have to sit down and wait, or I go and observe the lesson. Now, the system is not geared to people who break rules. And it is not always a good idea to break rules. You must first go through the democratic process. And it starts with that discourse with your colleagues. You work through the system till when it bucks. And if it gets to the point where nobody's taking notice, then you know what comes next. There is action or inaction. I rest my case, sir.
Thank you, Mrs. Allen. Is there another question for Mrs. Allen? Another question? If there be no other question, Rihanna is going to come again with an item, and then Mrs. Boyd. Rihanna. Come on, put your hands together. It seems to be younger Rihanna this time. Can someone help her with a...
My name is Shantice Edwards. I am in grade 2, soon going to 3. I'm going to say an item, and the title of the item is If You Were Born at Tissue by Linda North. If you were born at Tissue, you would be with worms and moles, then tossed away like garbage, filled with snot from someone's nose. If you were born at carpet, it would cut you to the quick. When people walk all over you, then beat you with a stick. If you were born a turkey, you'd surely shake and shudder when someone shoved you in the stove, all smeared with oil and butter. If you were born an onion, your troubles would begin the moment someone came along to peel off all your skin. If you were born a kangaroo, you'd surely be a liar to say that you weren't terrified of being lit on fire. If you were born a tea bag, you'd be riled, you'd be roiled. You'd shove inside the 4-roll pot in which you soon be boiled. It puts things in perspective when you see another's issue. Be glad you came from mom and dad and not a pair of tissue.
Wow, another hand for Shanice. Madam President, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am sure that you will agree with me that we are off to a great start. In this, the first session of the 54th Annual Conference of the Jamaica Teachers Association, as we embrace the theme, promoting the teaching profession, a beacon of hope and inspiration to our nation. On behalf of the Jamaica Teachers Association, I would like to express sincere thanks to the persons who have made the first session great one. In his absence, I would like to thank Reverend Juna Rotti, pastor of Agape Christian Fellowship, for invoking God's presence. He challenged us to have an attitude that reflects the life of Christ. To our exceptional, extraordinary President, Mrs. Georgia Wall Richards, for welcoming us, giving our remarks, and for navigating us through the program. To our hardworking Secretary General for doing the standing orders and everything else that he's doing up here. To the young and talented Rihanna and Shanice from the